Yeah, I have to ask, you guys have been, at the Times, have been live blogging this event. And 40 minutes ago, you wrote an observation that I was very surprised. Trump appears to be sleeping. His head keeps dropping down and his mouth goes slack. Tell us about that.
Well, Jake, he appeared to be asleep, and repeatedly his head would fall down. There have been other moments in other trials, like the Agent Carroll trial, which was around the corner in January, where he appeared very still and seemed as if he might be sleeping, but then he would move. This time, he didn't pay attention to a note that his lawyer, Todd Blanche, passed him. His jaw kept falling on his chest, and his mouth kept going slack. Now, sometimes people do fall asleep during court proceedings, but it's notable given the intensity of this morning and a lot of what was being argued.
Yeah, that's rather surprising.
Okay, I want to be clear about what just happened. The guy whose entire campaign for president is predicated on Joe Biden being Sleepy Joe is literally asleep in the courtroom. If you were looking for the definition of poetic irony, you just found it. Although, hold on, to be fair, I could see how Trump would have trouble staying awake. After all, you'd be hard-pressed to find something more boring in your life than day one of your own criminal trial. If there ever was a day that might test the limits of your attention, it's this one. Am I right? And I gotta say, if you can't stay awake in your own criminal trial, which one would think is a pretty momentous occasion in one's life, then are you really gonna have the stamina to wake up at 3 a.m. and get to the Situation Room? Are you really gonna have the stamina to contain global threats by Russia and Iran and China? Are you really gonna have the stamina to crisscross the country when bridges collapse or natural disasters wreak havoc on communities? All of which, by the way, Joe Biden has done in just the last few weeks and months. But given the fact that Trump can't even manage to keep his eyes open at his own trial, voters might have some serious doubts as to whether Donald Trump, who is a singularly unhealthy individual, would have the stamina to do the same. In a way, this one particular moment exposes the foundation of Donald Trump's campaign for president: projection. For example, Trump has spent years decrying Joe Biden as being in the throes of cognitive decline. Meanwhile, this is what the guy looks like on the campaign trail.
As you know, crooked Joe Biden and the radical left thugs who have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, and leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what, you take a look at Obama and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country is very divided. We have a man who is totally corrupt and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war. Just think of it. We would be in World War II. By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. I'm for us. I'm for us. You know how you spell us, right? You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that before? I just picked that up. A couple of days I'm reading and it said us. And I said, you know, if you think about it, us equals U.S. Isn't that? It's less than 4 months before the season starts. We start in Iowa, we go to New Hampshire, we come down here. You know, the beauty was when I came here, everyone thought Bush was going to win. And then they took a poll and they found out Trump was up by about 50 points. Everyone said, what's going on right here? They thought Bush, because Bush supposedly was a military person. Great. You know what he was a military? He got us into the Middle East. How did that work out, right?
And now they're getting hit very hard by the North. And I'm really shocked that the Obama administration can be out there saying, I hope they don't attack from the North. Why are they doing that? How stupid a statement.
So when Trump accuses Biden of being in cognitive decline, it is the very definition of projection. Or when Trump says this.
It's a scam. It's a scam. That's not a trial. That's not a trial. That's a scam. If you read Jonathan Turley, if you read Andy McCarthy, if you read the legal, they said there's not even a case there. That's election interference by the Biden administration. They actually took their top guy, one of their top guys, put him into the DA's office to run it, and it's a shame. What they have done is incredible. It's election interference, and it's got to stop. It's a third world country. This country's never done it. But you read Jonathan Turley, you read Andrew McCarthy, you read the legal scholars, Every single one of them said that whole thing is a scam. It's not even a crime. And what they're doing is a crime. They are criminals.
That he's concerned about election interference, kind of like, say, when a president running for re-election tries to overturn the election results, or stop the electoral certification in Congress, or backs a Texas lawsuit trying to invalidate the results in 4 other states, or threatens to declare martial law to take possession of voting machines, or calls up state officials to add votes that don't exist. Just, for starters. And look, I could go on about the myriad ways in which Trump's entire campaign is predicated on projection, but I think you get the point. But what this does is betray the fact that when Trump says that Biden is cognitively impaired or that Biden is some dangerous autocrat, Trump and his campaign are merely getting out in front of the fact that it is Trump who is cognitively impaired. He's the guy who insists that Obama is the current president, or that Nikki Haley was in charge of the Capitol on January 6th, or that World War II hasn't happened yet, or that you need ID to buy bread, or that the letters US for United States spell the word us. He and his campaign are also getting in front of the fact that he's the one who interfered in the election and will try to do so again in November of 2024. The right-wing media ecosystem and Trump's campaign can clearly, plainly, painfully obviously see what's happening with their guy, and they know that if they don't preempt it with hysterical coverage projecting their own faults onto Biden, that people will start to see Donald Trump for who he is. There's another reason why it's so important for Republicans to hammer away at this narrative that Biden is incompetent or corrupt or impaired. It is to try and erase the fact that Biden's actual successes far eclipse what Donald Trump was able to do with his time in office. Joe Biden is presiding over the strongest economy in American history. He's added the most jobs of any president in the history of this country. Unemployment's been below 4% for 26 straight months, the longest stretch in over 50 years. GDP is surging, wages are outpacing inflation, consumer sentiment is skyrocketing, and then there's the legislative accomplishments, the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Law, the Gun Safety Law, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, the Reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, codifying marriage equality into federal law, forgiving $153 billion of student loan debt for 4.3 million people, and fortifying NATO against Russia's war against Ukraine. That is not just a successful presidency, it's a presidency that turned Trump-era punchlines into real-life successes, and that is especially humiliating for Donald. Contrast that with Trump, whose only legislative achievement during his entire presidency was a tax cut that overwhelmingly favored millionaires and billionaires. He promised an infrastructure plan that never materialized. He promised a healthcare plan that never materialized. He promised a middle-class tax cut that never materialized. He promised record jobs and they never materialized. The problem with Trump's interminable list of sweeping promises is that it exposed just how full of shit he was as a politician, and served as a warning for this presidential run that whatever he promises on the legislative front will not come to fruition because, quite simply, he doesn't know how to execute. And apparently, he doesn't know how to stay awake either, which is particularly troubling for a candidate whose most potent attack against his opponent is quite literally that he is sleepy. If Trump is this tired now, God knows he won't be able to stay awake as president, and that should pose some serious concerns for voters who should have confidence in who they're voting for. In fact, you couldn't have a better side-by-side comparison than you have right now. Biden has been all over the country in these last few days, touting domestic investments and upgrades made as the result of the Inflation Reduction Act, dealing with a global conflict in the Middle East and Ukraine, all while overseeing the strongest economy in our lifetimes and the addition of 15 million jobs, all while Trump sleeps during his own prosecution. In terms of who's up for the job, it doesn't get clearer than that. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.